Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 7, The Rise of Islam from the Adepts in the Eastern Esoteric Tradition by Manly Palmer Hall, Part 4, The Mystics of Islam. The Rise of Islam. The 8th year after his flight into Medina, Mohammed re-entered Mecca after what was intended to be a bloodless victory over his foes. Because certain of his followers disobeyed him, there were 13 casualties. The march on Mecca began on the 10th day of the month of Ramadan, and when the Prophet entered the city, he carried a standard made of the black veil of his wife. Having circled the ancient Kaaba 7 times, he ordered the images worshipped there, probably the Lat and Uzza, to be cast down. Mohammed then rededicated the temple, establishing the precedent for the annual pilgrimage to the holy city. 2 years later, in the 10th year of the Hijra, Mohammed led what has been called the valedictory pilgrimage. For the last time, he rode at the head of the faithful upon his great black camel. The premonition of death was strong upon him, and it was his most devout desire that this pilgrimage should be the perfect model for the thousands that would follow in the course of centuries. During this last visit to the sacred city of his faith, the Prophet is said to have spoken frequently from the pulpit in the Kaaba, and in the open air from the back of his great camel. There is a legend, unsubstantiated but certainly held in regard by the faithful, that during one of his sermons, the heavens opened and the voice of God was heard saying, "This day I have perfected your religion and accomplished in you my grace." When these words were uttered, the assembled throng knelt in admiration, and Mohammed's camel fell upon its knees and lowered its head to the earth. The Prophet suffered much physical pain in the closing years of his life as the result of an effort made to poison him at Kaaba in the 7th year after the Hijra. Although he was miraculously prevented from eating the food, he had tasted of it, and the poison continued the slow work for which it was intended. Mohammed passed at Medina in the 11th year of the Hijra, 632 AD. His last words were remembered by Aisha, his young wife of 20 years. Shortly before his passing, the Prophet prayed in a whisper, "Lord, grant me pardon and join me to the companionship on high." Then at brief intervals he murmured, "Eternity in paradise, pardon." "Yes, the blessed companionship on high." Then with a soft sigh he expired. Mohammed was buried beneath the floor of the room in which he died. This chamber is now called the Hujra and was originally the private apartment of Aisha. The present state of the grave is described thus. Above the Hujra is the green dome, surmounted by a large gilt crescent springing from a series of globes. Within the building are the tombs of Muhammad, Abu Bakr and Umar, with a space reserved for the grave of our Lord Jesus Christ, who Muslims say will again visit the earth and die and be buried at Al-Medina. The grave of Fatima, the Prophet's daughter, is supposed to be in a separate part of the building, although some say she was buried at Baqi. The Prophet's body is said to be stretched full length on the right side, with the right palm supporting the right cheek, the face fronting Mecca. Close behind him is placed Abu Bakr, whose face fronts Muhammad's shoulder, and then Umar, who occupies the same position with respect to his predecessor. Amongst Christian historians, there was a popular story to the effect that Mohammedans believed the coffin of their prophet to be suspended in the air, which has no foundation whatever in Muslim literature, and Niebuhr thinks that the story must have arisen from the rude pictures sold to strangers. After the passing of the Prophet, the succession of Islam was vested in the Caliphate. The nature of this institution has been subject to many conflicting accounts, and some Muslim sects hold it in slight esteem. Generally, however, it is regarded as according to the will of the Prophet. In the Sunni writings, which represent the words of the companions of the house of the Prophet, a caliph must be a man who has attained adulthood, a sane person, a free man, a learned divine, a powerful ruler, a just governor, and belonging to the tribe from which the Prophet himself descended. Some hold that a caliph must be descended from the family of the Prophet. Several elements contribute to the suitability of a candidate making claim for the caliphate. First of all, he must be the de facto holder of the title for which no better claimant has appeared. He must be in a political or military position to support his claim. He must be elected through the sanction of a legal body of elders. Second, he must, if possible, receive the right of succession from a previous holder whose position was unquestioned. Third, he should be the guardian of the 2 shrines, Mecca and Jerusalem. and he must have the possession of the sacred relics, the cloak of the prophet, the hairs from the prophet's beard, and the sword of the Caliph Umar. As the whole subject of the caliphate is exceedingly complicated, it may be as well to summarize it by a direct quotation from a Muslim writer. The succession of Muslim sovereigns varied. Abu Bakr, the first successor of the Prophet, was chosen by the most influential party in the Muslim community. Umar was designated by Abu Bakr. Othman by electors whom Omar had named. The election of Ali led to civil war. With Muawiyah, the dynastic rule was established, first in the family of the Umayyads. Even in the dynasties, the order of succession was not always constant. Sometimes the Caliph chose one of his sons as his heir apparent. For example, Harun-ur-Rashid designated 3 of his sons with entail. The first of the 3, Al-Amin, wished to oust the second, Al-Mamun, but the latter revolted and Al-Amin was killed. Among the Ottoman sultans, it was rather the brother who succeeded. The functions of a caliph are also vaguely defined. Theoretically, this dignitary is the vice-regent or deputy of the prophet. In the Quran, the word caliph is used in reference to Adam, who was regarded as the vice-regent of the Most High. David is also mentioned as a caliph. In practical terms, however, the caliph can function only within certain arbitrary boundaries unless he is strong enough and exercises sufficient personal glamour to attain autocracy by the consent of the governed. In principle, all legislation is based upon the will of God. The laws of deity are revealed through the Quran. Next in authority are the traditions derived from the words of the companions of the Prophet and certain immediate commentaries thereon. This body of instruction is known as the Sunni. Finally, authority is vested in the consensus. The caliph can be duly invested only with legislative prerogatives by the express will of the entire Muslim community or nation. Finally, therefore, the proofs of the caliphate are, at least theoretically, nomination by the preceding caliph and the voluntary acceptance by a pronouncement of the people. From the early caliphs and some outstanding leaders of later times, the principal sects of the Muslims derived their names and authorities. One by one, the various dynasties had their days. Some enjoyed comparatively slight power and influence, others endured for a long time. Around each, legends have sprung up, and these, weaving together through the centuries, form the elaborate pattern of Muslim philosophy, theology, and history. Also at this time, the term imam must be introduced. By most conservative interpretations, the word imam is regarded as synonymous with caliph. The moment such a leader transgresses the laws of the Quran or fails in the traditional virtues and benevolences of his office, it is the duty of the faithful to reject him or replace him, and to deny that he is their true leader. According to the Sunni, those who cling to the tradition, acknowledging the first 4 caliphs, the caliph is the true imam, but the more mystical sect of the Shias applies the term imam to the 7 or 12 leaders of their own sect, and among them an elaborate metaphysical doctrine has developed. The imams of this sect descend from Ali, the son-in-law of the Prophet, through the eldest son of Ali and Fatima. Their second son, Al-Hussein, was the 3rd imam, and his son was the 4th. The 12th and last imam, who is yet to come, will be named Mohammed. It is believed that he has been alive for centuries but lives in secrecy. When the proper day comes, he will appear among the faithful as the Mahdi, the comforter of the last day, whose advent was predicted by the Prophet. Bernard H. Springett gives a ray of insight into the imam concept. The Persian kings of the Sufi dynasty styled themselves slaves of the lord of the country, that is, of the invisible imams. They always kept 2 horses saddled and bridled in the royal stables at Isfahan, one for the 12th imam, whenever he should appear, the other for Jesus Christ, by whom they believed he would be accompanied. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.